In this video today, we are going to focus on our first strategy for division, which is basically a version of the area model from multiplication. Now, remember, if we have a rectangle like such, we find the area or the amount of space inside by multiplying the length times the height. So the area of a rectangle is length times height. Now, we're going to use this in a way to figure out how division works. So let's start off with this problem. We are going to try to divide 624 by 2. So we're going to be cutting 624 into 2 equal pieces. And we use division to figure that out. Now, we're going to be using the area method, as I mentioned earlier. So let me draw my rectangle. And as it works, we're going to take our divisor, which is the 2, that's the number we're dividing by, and we are going to write that on the side of our rectangle. And effectively, that means that the height of this rectangle, the whole thing, is 2. Remember that we're talking about area models, length times height equals the area of this rectangle. So we've got our height, it's 2. Now we're going to take our dividend, and the dividend is the number that we're dividing, so it's 624. And we're not going to just write 624. We're actually going to split this up into its expanded form. So we have to think about what is the expanded form of 624. Remember our place values for each of these digits. What does the 6 stand for? What does the 2 stand for? And what does the 4 stand for? Now the 6 stands for 600, and I'm going to write it on the inside. So we've got 600. And then I'm going to draw a little line to separate it. Our 2 is in the tens place, so it stands for 20. I'm going to write it in the next portion and separate it with a line as well. And then finally, we've got the 4 in the ones place. So it's going to go in our final rectangle, and we have 620 and 4 inside the rectangle that we're working with. Now the numbers on the inside is the area, and we're trying to figure out 2 times what length up top gives us this 600, and then 2 times what length in here gives us 20. And lastly, 2 times what up here gives us an area of 4. So let's start here first. We've got 2. What can we multiply 2 by to get 4? Hopefully you say 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. And we figured out this portion. Now, let's go to our middle part. 2 times what gets us 20? Think of your multiplication facts. This is one of your basic multiplication facts. 2 times what is 20? Well, 2 times 10. So we have a 10 here. And we can actually add these together. We're going to draw plus signs because when we get all 3 numbers up top, their sum gives us the answer to our division problem. Now we're working with the toughest one. 600. Well, 2 times what gets us to 600? Well, we know 2 times 3 gets us 6. And if we want to have 2 zeros in our answer, we have to have 2 zeros in our factor. So 2 times 300 is 600. Or we could think of it as 600 divided by 2 is 300, 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. We could think of it that way. Either way will help get you the right answer. And now that we've got our lengths up top, well, that means the total length going from left to right is going to be what? Well, if we add them together, we get 312. So 624 divided by 2 is 312. And that's our first example problem of how to use this method. Let's try a different one that's a little bit bigger. This time we're working with 8,264 and we're dividing it by 4. Now just like last time, we're going to take our divisor and we're going to put it on the left side of our rectangle. And remember, the divisor is the number that we are dividing by. So when we say 8,264 divided by 4, it's the number after our division symbol. So we're dividing by 4. And remember, we're taking our dividend, the number that is getting divided, and we are writing it in expanded form inside. So if we're going to expand 8,264, we're going to expand it into 8,264. Now, it's time to start either thinking about it in terms of multiplication or in terms of division. So I'm going to put little lines up top here because those are the numbers we are going to try to find. We started on the ones place last time, but this time let's start in the thousands place because we can start pretty much wherever we want for most cases. So think of it as either what is 8,000 divided by 4, or 4 times what gets us 8,000. Well, if I think about it, I know 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 20 is 80. 4 times 200 is 800. So 4 times 2,000, continuing that pattern, must get us 8,000, and it does. So 4 times 2,000 is 8,000, or 8,000 divided by 4 is 2,000. Okay, let's continue on. 4 times what gets us 200? This one's a little bit trickier because I can't multiply 4 by a whole number to get 2. So I'm going to have to think, well, 4 times what is 20? Forget about that 0 at the end right now and just think about the 20. 4 times what is 20? And if you know your basic facts, 4 times 5 is 20. And if I want 200, I'm going to have to put a 0 at the end. So I've got 4 times 50 is 200, which is correct. So we're on the right path. Okay, now for probably the trickiest one this time. 4 times what is 60? Well, we know 4 times 10, let me write this down at the bottom. 4 times 10 equals 40. But we want to get to 60. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. And together, 40 and 20 give me 60. So if I combine 10 and 5, I should get the number we're looking for, which is 15. So 4 times 15 actually gives us 60. So we're going to put 15 up top here. And then lastly, easiest one, 4 times what gets us 4? Well, 4 times 1 is 4. So if we divided 8,264 into 4 equal groups, meaning we're dividing it by 4, our answer is going to be the sum of these 4 numbers, which ends up being 2,066. Now you might be thinking, well, that's all wonderful, but how do we know? If we take our answer, 2,066, because remember we got that by adding together all of our pieces up top here. If we take our quotient, which is the answer in a division problem, take that quotient and we multiply it by the divisor, we should get our dividend. So let's try that. 2066 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24, carry the 2. 4 times 6 is 24 plus 2, so we get 26, carry the 2. 4 times 0 is 0 plus 2, which is 2. And then 4 times 4 times 2 is 8. This number matches our dividend, and since it does, we've done it correctly. Huzzah! All right, we've done it with 2 simpler examples, but sometimes when we start putting things into expanded form, it's not going to work out as nicely as we're going to find out in our next example, so hold tight. This one's going to get a little tricky. Here we have 328 divided by 8. I went back to having a 3-digit dividend. So you might be thinking, oh, this is pretty simple. All right, well, I invite you to take some work on your own now and work up to the part where we've put in a number on the side and we've filled in our rectangle. Don't go any further, though, because that's when it starts to get tricky. So, pause the video, fill in your rectangle as we have been. There's nothing different about it just yet. All right. If you've paused the video and you're starting it up again, hopefully your rectangle looks like this. You have an 8 on the outside, and on the inside you have 320 and 8. Now this looks wonderful. If you have it just like this, you've done it fine. You could have even drawn a line up across the top to show what we're going to have there. But this is where we start having issues. Look at the numbers inside of here. There's only one number that, as it stands by itself, is a multiple of 8. And that's our ones place over here. So we know 8 times 1 gets us 8. But we have an issue. There isn't a whole number we can multiply 8 by to get 20. And there also isn't a whole number we can multiply 8 by to get 300. This is where we have to start combining pieces on the inside and hope that we get a multiple of our divisor. So, since I can't fit 8 into 300 evenly, I'm going to put a 0 up top. Because there's no whole number I can multiply by, or 8 by, to get 300. I can get close, but I can't get 300 exactly. And then I'm going to take this 300, whoops, I want to erase. I'm going to take that 300, and I'm going to combine it with the 20 over here. So I'm going to have actually 320. Now I have a number that is a multiple of 8. Got 32. 8 times what gives us 32? Well, 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 gets us 32. And if we want that extra 0, it's going to have to be 40. So we now know that 8 goes into 320 40 times, or 8 times 40 is 320. I've used every single piece from 328. I just had to do some combinations, and we ended up with nothing in the hundreds, which is okay. So if we combine these, we end up with 40 plus 1, which is 41. And just like last time, let's check our answer. 41 times 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32. And it worked out. There was really no other way we could do it using this area method, because 300 just isn't a multiple of 8. Neither is 20. But we were lucky enough that we could combine them into something that was. We're going to do this one more time with our last problem, and let's take a look at it now. So for our last example here, we have 6,324 divided by 3. At this point, the setup is still the same as we've done for the past 3, so you're in charge for setting up the problem on your own this time. Do it on a piece of paper, pause the video, set up the inside and the outside of our rectangle. Do not go on to the top yet, because this is going to be an example kind of like last time. Pause the video. So here's what you should have. You should have our divisor, 3, on the outside, and our expanded form of 6,324 on the inside. 6 is in the thousands, so it's 6,000, 3 is in the hundreds, 2 is in the tens, and 4 is in the ones. Now, start up just like last time. Let's start with the thousands, and that's usually a good place to start with the biggest place value. I know we've started at the ones place value before, but you should probably stick with starting with the bigger ones and working our way smaller. So 3 times what is 6,000? Or 6,000 divided by 3 is what? Well, we did something similar before. 3 times 2 gets us 6. Let me write that better. So 3 times 20 gets us 60. 3 times 200 gets us 600, and 3 times 2,000 gets us 6,000. So there's our first part, 2,000. Alright, well, 3 times what goes up here, gets us 300. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 10 is 30, so 3 times 100 gets us 300. Okay, 3 times 100 gets us 300, or 300 divided by 3 is 100. Here's where we run into an issue again. Think of your multiples of 3. You got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. 20 is not in there, so we don't have a multiple that we can multiply 3 by to get 20. But maybe, just maybe, if we combined these two, we would get something that would work with for us. So let me erase them. It was a 20 and a 4, so combined, we move the number back, we get 24. I'm going to put nothing up here because we didn't use that place. Well, 3 times what gets us 24 now? Well, 3 times what? Or 24 divided by 3 is what? Thinking of your multiplication facts, we get 8. So if we combine all these together, we get 2,108. That 0 helped us figure out we're not going to have anything in the tens place. So we get 2,108, and if we multiply it by 3, we should get our original dividend. So let's try it. 3 times 8 is 24. Carry the 2. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. 6,324. They match, so we've done it correctly. The hardest part is realizing when we have to do this combination. Now, all you got to think of is there a multiple I can use to get that number there, which was originally 20? No, so we combine them, and hopefully it'll turn into something that we can use. All right, good luck with your homework.